Jimmy, we have 135 to go. I see Michael Tressler is in the chat as well. We got to be careful once we go live.
Listen, he's got a question that I think we got to answer.
Let us know where you're from, everybody. Thanks for joining a little bit early. What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 4 of Teams Rooms Tech Talk. My name is Michel Baumann. Jimmy, how you been, buddy?
I've been great, Michelle. I've been looking forward to this since ISE when Arash came over and said, "Hey, I want to talk about something."
So we have a very, very, very special guest today on the show. Before we introduce Arash, let's shout some people out because I'm looking at the comments and we have people from all over the world. Once again, I see Copenhagen, I see Brazil, I see London, I see Netherlands. I wonder why people are up so late. What time is it? It's almost 11 p.m. over here in Europe, 10 p.m. in the UK. I see Michael Tressler here. I see US. I see what else? Bristol, Vienna, uh, people from all over the place. So it's always fun to see such an international
And I
crowd.
see so many of our lovely partners on the call as well. I see Erez from Poly here that I know Arash knows very well. So there's a whole bunch of people out there. But I think it's really, really great to see everybody. I think, Michelle, you're up the latest here. I'm missing my dinner at 4:30. I'm an old man, so I like to eat at like 4:30, 5 o'clock. But yeah, you're up late.
Yeah, it's bedtime for me, but I'm sure I won't fall asleep in the next hour because, like I said, we have a very special guest. Arash is with us. Arash, your LinkedIn profile is saying Senior Director, Teams Intelligent and Ambient Experiences. What does that mean? What do you actually do?
Hi, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on which time zone you're in. I'm really excited to be here. I know that is a handful. That is pretty a mouthful thing. So I can tell you a little bit about what I do at Microsoft. So I joined Microsoft about 21 years ago. It's kind of quite a long time ago. I've really been working on AI for most of the time. Being at Microsoft. So my team's charter is to solve some of the meeting effectiveness and immersive experiences in meetings using AI. So in my team, we're looking at what are the really big customer pain points to collaborate and communicate, and then how can we use technology to solve those problems. And it comes in different ways and and forms and shapes. One of the biggest challenges that everybody is experiencing is this new hybrid world, right? So the experience you have at home and the experience you have when you go to office, maybe some days of the week you go to office. I go 3 days a week to office, most of the time at home. The experiences are like a very different. The pandemic really accelerated our pace of innovation for us to really use the technology to create a more immersive and collaborative experience and bring equity between the people who meet online versus people who actually are in offices and in conference rooms. So one of the focuses of my team is that how can we use AI perception, which to us kind of means understanding what people are saying, who they are, what are they doing, and what is their intent. These are the 4 things that are very important for any user interface. And my team is kind of using AI to leverage this as a utility to solve some of these equitable or lack of equity between the online and in-person meetings in new ways. So, one of the examples of that is we announced recently with our partnership with Jabra, bringing what we call multi-stream video feed to Teams. So today, if you are in a conference room, for example, there's only one video feed coming out of the conference room shared with everybody else online. But there could be multiple people in the room. Like you could have 10 people in the conference room and 10 people online. And the people who are in the conference room, they are not getting a fair share. They are not being seen and heard the same way as people who are online. So we are trying to really use the technology to kind of create that kind of a balance and equity between the 2 worlds. So we basically work with Jabra and partner with them to create segmented view of the people in the conference room and represent them as if those people are actually online. So they look equal to everybody else. And equality is a very important thing for us. And that's kind of one of the examples of where AI can help.
I remember, and for everybody watching, ask questions, right? This is the opportunity to ask questions to Arash, and we're going to try to get as much out of him as we can during the next 45 minutes. I remember last year I saw one of the videos that actually had the people identification on those streams. Is that still coming? Is that on the roadmap coming soon?
Yeah, so last September, we announced 3 major things for Teams videos. One of them was bringing active speakers. So using AI to really identify who is an active speaker in a shared space. When you're online and if you are, speaking, we can just bring your video to the focus because you are the person who is speaking. When you're in a conference room with a group of people and somebody is speaking or 2 people maybe having a debate, we don't do that today. So the idea of the active speaker detection is that we want to really be able to bring the focus of the people who are remote into where the action is happening in the room. If 2 people are debating something or somebody is speaking, we want to zoom into that person so everybody can see that person, see their facial cues, and better understand what they're saying, as if that person is kind of online. So one of the features was, active speaker detection. So Microsoft has developed this technology. You will see some of these coming in multiple products in the near future. And the second part was around this multi-stream that I just talked about. So we enable teams to now not only get one video stream from a conference room, but also get up to 12 different video streams coming out of the conference room. So we kind of democratize a room as a kind of a single endpoint, if you like, into a multi-endpoint. So it could be sending very interesting information about, as I said, active speaker could be one, whole view of the room could be another view, and then individual people in the room, each of them get a dedicated video sent to the cloud to the rest of the meeting attendees. And the third thing we announced is what you just mentioned, which is people identification. So we believe, people identity really adds a lot of context. And Microsoft Office has got this rich graph of people's identities and what they're doing, what's their title, what documents they're working on. Once you know the identity of the person, you're suddenly unlocking a lot of context and information about, that person. Like, when was the last time you went to a meeting, you had some people joining in a conference room, and you didn't know who they are. Like, there's somebody sitting in a conference room. Is this person from finance? Is he a manager? Is he working on a different project? So I think knowing the identity, it goes back to the bringing the equity between online and in conference room users. Today, we don't have that identity for people in the conference rooms. And we think that we should just bring that dimension into the meeting to make the meeting more effective. That means, as you said, as people walking into a conference rooms, in the future, you will see those people get recognized, and we will show their names, and then you can click on their names and you can see what documents they've been working on, what is their title, where is their office, what's their phone number. You kind of get the whole rich set of graph information for people who are in these shared spaces.
And Michelle, I think for those people like me who are graphically driven, I don't, I like to see exactly what people are seeing. But what you guys see on the screen right here is really that identification of what Arash just actually explained. So on the left is what you get today with a camera manufacturer, where you can see in that middle icon, everybody is composited, but it's that single far end view that everybody sees. And Arash, to your point, if I've got that bowling alley effect of that camera that goes down, I might not know exactly who the active speaker is. Arash's team has actually come up with this idea, and this is what Intelligent Speaker is going to be doing, is taking that conference room, and you can still see in the middle of the square there on the right-hand side is still that view of the conference room itself. But now, as you can see, individual people from that room are actually outputted into their own squares, giving a better meeting experience. And Arash, I think really one of the things that before we came on, everybody said, I said, all right, Arash, I'm going to hit you with a whole bunch of questions, and this is what it is. But I think it's important to also identify exactly what your team does, right? I think your team comes up with the ideas, if I understood what we were saying before correctly, right?
Yeah, so we are a typical product management team. So I run the what we call intelligent or AI devices team, and we are a group of product managers. And typically, what product management managers do, they really go and really develop a deep understanding of customer problems and pain points, and then based on that, define user experiences that will solve those customer problems. And we are not really like an engineering team per se in a kind of a general concept that we kind of implement the features, but as a product managers, we define the roadmap, we represent the customers, we kind of create a product sense for how we can address some of these customer pain points in the best possible way, and ideally in a way that we kind of make the technology disappear, and like people kind of get immersed into these experiences without even realizing that there was a lot of complex technology happening behind the scene to deliver these experiences.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that your team actually helped to drive was the intelligent speaker. And I'm going to ask Michael Tressler's question that he put on LinkedIn the other day. Why do they call it intelligent speaker if the microphone is doing all of the actual hard lift? And Michelle, if we want to talk, see a little bit about intelligent speaker, we also have the slide up of some of those. But tell us where intelligent speaker came from, how it's evolving, and how our partners are actually working with this technology to sort of help, like you said, bring that element of meetings to a new level.
Great. So I think the two big areas that my team works on, one is around speech and audio, or we call it intelligent speech and audio, and the other one is the vision and cameras. So we have intelligent speakers and intelligent cameras. Now, the intelligent speakers, as rightly noted, they are actually microphones. They are intelligent microphones, but they also have a speaker. So we had a lot of debate, should we call them intelligent microphones or intelligent speakers? But we just looked at what the industry know. And in the industry, these devices or POCs, they are essentially called the speaker phones. So they're kind of called speakers. So the point noted there, but intelligent speakers, they really were created to solve a very particular problem. And that is to really develop much richer understanding of what people saying and how and who are when they are saying something. So if you're in a meeting room, there are some real events happen. One is that there will be a discussion between people. Sometimes people talk over each other, which kind of happens. Sometimes happens. And then sometimes you have rooms that have different acoustic characteristics. So they might have high ceilings, reflective windows, and things like that. So we generally found that the current generation speaker phones are very good at conveying the meeting quality. So if you're just talking with a person, you kind of get a good experience. But once you bring a speech into this, which is, in other words, there are machines trying to convert your whatever you said into text and into insight, then we suffer there, because there is really not very good speech, enterprise grade speech microphones in the conference room. So we came up with this idea of intelligent speakers to really capture the speech in the room in a way that our machines, in other words, the Microsoft Azure speech AI cloud, which essentially processes, converts the speech into text, and from the text, develop understanding of that text. These specific speakers are very good at doing that. In other words, if three of us were in a conference room and we had one of these, as we were having a discussion, these devices will transcribe in live of what is being said, who said it, and they can even handle situations when two or three of us talking over each other. So we have this technology called disambiguation. So we essentially create a collective audio of the room and split it for each person. So the same way that the intelligent cameras split the video into different segmented people, intelligent speakers separate your audio into separate audio streams for each person. So in that case, when Jimmy says something, the transcription says Jimmy said this and Arash said this, and those are separated with the identity attached. And again, going back to identity, knowing who said something, it is a very important context, right? So if I send you a transcript of a movie or a transcript of a meeting and I remove all the names of the people who actually spoke in the transcript, you kind of don't really get the whole story. But if you know who said something, sometimes your manager says something or your marketing person says something, and those carry different weights. So we feel it's very important for us to really have a very accurate capture of who said what in meeting rooms to, again, bring that experience to the equity when people talk online. Because when you are online joining a meeting, like me, I have a dedicated camera and a dedicated microphone. But when I'm in the conference room, all the bets are off. There's only one microphone array with 10 or what number of people in there. So that was kind of the purpose of the intelligent speaker. And the great thing is, once we create this equity between the shared spaces and online people, then the sky is the limit, because we are going to use a speech and what people said to generate a lot of insight. Insight, things like, action items, who said what, follow-up items, things like that. So we are really creating a foundation with intelligent speakers. So if you have a meeting room, you are set up for success in the future as these new features from Teams come on board and generate more insight from what was said in the meeting to help people, get a much clearer view of the meeting and making meetings more effective. The last thing I would just say is that, sometimes I just cannot go to a meeting. I have too many meetings, lots of conflicting meetings. So people are going to miss some meetings, right? And you don't really have to be in every single meeting. You just need to know whether that meeting has got some piece of information that is useful to you. So today, if I miss a meeting, I can go and read the whole transcript, or I can read the recording. But in the future, we can think about, if we have all of the context of who said what, and we have the highly accurate transcription, we can do interesting things. You can just search for a topic. You may be able to search for your name, and you essentially can reduce the time it is needed for you to catch up with a meeting, compared to today that you have to, for example, sit down and listen to the whole hour of recordings.
Michelle, I think that goes to the basis of what I like, which is Microsoft Teams making meetings better so that we have less meetings.
Yes, exactly. Let's go to a few questions that we have coming in from both LinkedIn and YouTube. I see one here. How is privacy respected for users that do not want to be recognized with detecting users in a meeting room? And I think that's around privacy and responsible AI in general.
Exactly. That's an excellent question. Microsoft values privacy, I would say, extremely high. And the responsible AI principles that we published on Microsoft.com is really truly what drives our features and innovation and experiences. For intelligent speakers itself, we have, I would just say, it spent about a year of privacy reviews, privacy, security, compliance reviews. And we could have just shipped that product a year earlier, but we just did not want to do that until we make sure that we are complying with all of the privacy, security, and concerns of our customers. Many user studies and discussions led us to believe and implement a number of controls in the system, from end user control to meeting control to admin control. So there are multiple layers of control built into the system that empowers the end users to decide whether they want to participate in a meeting with their identity when they are in a shared space, or they don't want to. So with a click of button, you can just say, I don't want to be participating in being identified in shared spaces. Or you can even say, for a particular meeting, let's say you might have a sensitive meeting, we don't want to be identified. You can just say, for this meeting, I'm going to turn that off. So lots of end user controls. Then the next level of control is a meeting level control. You can just say, for this particular meeting, nobody should be identified. And you can just turn that off through the MTR console, or you can turn that off through your desktop if you're joining online and you want to do that for the people who are in the conference room. And then lastly is admins. So the IT admins for every company who uses Teams, they have control at multiple levels to turn on and off the identity at the user level, at the conference room level, or for the entire organization, or in the groups of the organization. Maybe you want the HR team to have this feature, but you don't want the legal team to have that feature. So you can actually control all of those. And everything is built in.
We have another privacy question that's saying any information where the data will be temporarily stored.
So all of the data is stored in the customer tenant data in Teams. So where you store your files, your PowerPoint presentations, Excel files, we store all of the information around biometric into the same place. Essentially, it's stored in the user profile. And the users have control. They can delete it with a click, or they can recreate it with a click. So everything is stored very securely, isolated from other information within a particular tenant.
Gotcha. We also have quite a few questions around expanding intelligent speaker. So let me find one. I think Lars have one. Yeah, exactly. That's a good
really
one.
Wants to know, are we going to be basically do something with larger rooms? Are we expanding this category? How are we going to get this? I mean, to me, it's an important category because, like you said, it actually identifies who's inside of that room. Now, it is auto, is something you have to enroll in. But to me, seeing it here live at Microsoft, it really helps me sort of scan through all the meetings that we have and make sure that everybody's identifiable. But how do we bring this to larger spaces and bring this to other spaces when we've got a category right now that we've asked our partners to sort of make these devices that fit into the small and medium spaces?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So we had to start from somewhere, right? So we had to really narrow down the number of moving parts to really bring the product to the market. So we started with the circular mic array, which is a 7 microphone array that you showed in the picture, Jimmy. And that kind of helped us narrow the scope. We're targeting rooms of size about 10 to 12 people. And that is the fastest growing rooms in the market today. So we thought that is a good place to start. But we also understand not every customer wants a center of the room microphone and speaker. And as you said, there are larger rooms that you need to cover. And those are definitely top of mind for us. And we are really looking at opportunities and new innovations so we can expand on multiple dimensions. One, change the form factor. So it could be a circular microarray, or it could be front of the room microarray, or it could be something in the ceiling. So these are the things that we are thinking about how we can actually expand the intelligent speakers. I mean, we don't have any like plans or timeline, nothing to announce today. But these are essentially we understand, we get the feedback from customers that they want to see the expansion. Ultimately, our vision is that every shared space, when you use Microsoft Team Rooms, it should be a great space for capturing speech, whether, depending on, no matter what the size is. So we are making our way up, as you can see, and expanding, but we had to start from somewhere.
Lars is also asking, will the intelligent speaker feature be by default enabled or disabled? And then we have another quick question coming up.
That's a good question. So today, by default, is disabled. We have documentations for admins to go and enable it. And then we have had some feedback from some of the customers that, why do I have to go and enable this? Can it just be enabled by default when I purchase the device and plug it in? It should just work, plug and play. So we are looking into whether there will be some options where we can just enable it by default. But at this point, because we really want to honor the user privacy and also want to make sure that our customers feeling comfortable and the trust and feeling confident about using this feature, we are going with a default off, but then very simple steps for any admin in the organization to turn it on through just using a policy. So there are basically two policies for intelligent speakers. One is a policy that enables enrollment. Once you enable that policy, everybody in the organization, or you can just limit it to certain groups of people in the organization, can enroll their voice. Enrollment takes about, I would say, 30 seconds. I think everybody should be very familiar with it. You just read a paragraph, and then that is enough for us to, recognize your voice. And there is a second policy for enabling the actual capture and identification in the conference rooms. So as an admin, you can just basically go and run two simple scripts. This instruction is online. You can put the links in here, and you can enable it for your organization.
And I love, Michelle, before you go on, I love the people that say, well, I don't want to be identified. They're listening to me inside the conference room, but they'll walk into the conference room with the cell phone at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. Kelvin is asking a great question, and for me, this is twofold. So Kelvin is saying, great concept. Does it also work with external guests if both use the same meeting room setup? And for me, like I said, it's twofold. What happens if there is no voice sample, for, I think, the lack of a better term? What if there's no voice sample and somebody in the room is speaking? So external guests, and what if the sample isn't recognized?
That's a great question. So let me answer the second question, which is kind of my favorite thing because it happens all the time. So if you have a voice sample, then we know who you are, right? We just say, hey, this is, Michael said this, or Jimmy said this. If you don't have the voice sample, we still in the room, we can separate voices. So if three of us walking into a room and none of us have a voice sample, Jimmy will be speaker 1, you will be speaker 2, Michael, I'll be speaker 3. And for throughout the meeting, will be speaker 1, speaker 2, and speaker 3. So we keep your number to you, we assign it to you throughout the meeting. And the cool thing is that you can right click on your name on the speaker, and then you can just say, this is Michael. And you can just say, this is Jimmy. And what happens is that if I right click on the speaker 1 and say, this is Jimmy, all of the speaker 1 utterances change to Jimmy. And then also Jimmy gets a message that says, hey, somebody change a speaker 1 to you. You want to go and check that out. It just shows up in your team. So you can just click on it and you can see what changes have been made. If you don't agree, you can revert it back, or you can just say, yeah, this looks good. Somebody, identified me. So you don't need a voice sample because you can just bulk edit all of the speaker 1, 2, and 3 with the name. And then we built in security. So you cannot like go and then say speaker 1 is Satya, or I don't know, some famous person. That person
Right.
must be invited to the meeting, must be on the invite list. So we build a security so you can only do that for people who actually were part of the meeting.
And does that work for external guests as well?
So
Is
external
it the same
guests,
concept?
I would just say the multiple concepts. There is a concept of like a multi-tenancy. So let's say the two tenants that they can work together, so you can get Microsoft and like Jabra, the two different tenants that work together. That's the concept of multi-tenancy. That's kind of something that we are looking into enabling today. Only the tenants or only the company, the tenant, people who are part of that tenant will be recognized. We don't support multi-tenancy today. And then the next step is like, oh, what about anonymous people, joining from PSTN and things like that? And those also are definitely further down the line. We just today focusing on a single tenant, and then we're going to be thinking about expanding it in the future.
But I also think that goes towards a lot of things that AI and machine learning sort of do. As that technology gets better and as you advance in that technology, different capabilities will come with that advancement. I think you're about to put up the next question, Michelle, which sort of goes towards that.
Yeah, so Peter, and I know Peter's from Belgium, so his actual name is Peter. Peter is asking, what about linking multiple speakers?
Excellent question. We do get that question a lot, especially when people want to cover larger rooms. That is a very common question. We have it in, for example, executive rooms. One speaker will not be sufficient, and you have like auditoriums and EDU. So it's a very common question we ask. This is something that we think that we need to progress into and grow into. But today we haven't got anything that we can announce, but it's definitely top of mind for us to see how can we expand these experiences in the larger spaces. One solution could be multiple of these be in the room, and there are some other solutions. It could be that if a device manufacturer already have solutions for larger rooms with multiple speakers and multiple microphones, we can think about scenarios where we provide APIs and technology to those already multi-microphone solutions to enable these experience in larger rooms. I would say everything there is TBD, but we are definitely working and thinking about it. So this is great feedback. I really appreciate the question.
Good stuff. Before we go to the next question, I have a question. How do we plan to empower our OEMs to build more consistent AI experience across all devices?
That's a great question. The way we kind of approaching this is there are OEMs who have built AIs. They build great AIs. Example is Jabra Panacast that we just jointly announced about a month ago at ISC. We want encourage those OEMs to bring their AI to Teams. So we call them BY AI, bring your own AI. And then we are providing APIs so they can integrate their AI into Teams. For example, the Jabra example that I gave, they do the people segmentation, and then we provide them APIs so they can send us metadata about who is the active speaker, which video are you sending us, and things like that. So our step one is like bring your AI to Teams. And a lot of OEMs are excited about that. And we are working with some very big OEMs that they're bringing their AI experiences to Teams. Then you have Microsoft AI. So as you know, we have invested heavily at the company to develop a lot of AI technologies, from people identification, voice recognition, face recognition. And we basically would like to build, there will be some products that really uses the Microsoft AI in the future. And then eventually we want to kind of be able to also help our OEMs in different ways so we can make their AI better, or we can offer them, suggestions, guidelines, tools, models, and things like that, so they can actually leverage from the investment that Microsoft has made into AI. So we do want to empower our OEMs in two different ways. One is bringing their AI, and in the future, offering us our AI so they can actually build these immersive experiences for teams.
I love that. We have so many partners that actually, or as Ilya said many times, we partner with the best in breed, and we've got so many partners that have so many great technologies. And I think combining both their AI that's actually there and the Microsoft AI will give the end customers the best experience possible at that point.
Yeah, totally agree. We really want Teams to be a place where all of these innovation come together for the benefit of customers. Totally agree with you, Jimmy.
And I love this idea. Even taking it a step further, Arash.
Yeah. Will there be an option to automatically check in when you are recognized if you have booked the room? So for me, is that recognize if your voice is recognized or recognize if your face is being recognized?
No more card. No more RFID card that you're going to scan and go to a certain place and everything else. I mean, it does become something that can be used, right?
Yeah. So, face identification can be used in many different ways. Initially we are not going to be using face identification for giving you access. So for security and things like that. So I think the idea of I walk into a room, I got recognized, the door unlocked for me. It's a great idea for the future, but that is not kind of where we are right now. What we're trying to do right now is that because we want to really establish trust with our customers, we really want to use this information to facilitate and make the meetings more productive rather than using it as an access control. There are lots of other technologies out there that allow you to do this. They scan your face, your eye, or whatever. But we are just focusing and saying, how can we make meetings more immersive and help people really better understand meetings and what's going on in the shared spaces? And for that, we don't necessarily need to identify you at the level where we give you access to your files. We just need to identify you at a level that you say, well, in this meeting, Arash participated. And, using the fact that you are actually invited to the meeting as a two-form authentication in a sense, but it's not an authentication really, but identifying who you are. So it's kind of a more lightweight identification, but it's not used for going and accessing your files or anything like that.
Gotcha. We have a few more questions around intelligent camera. Let's start with Lars again. And Lars, thank you so much for always participating in these sessions and asking all these questions. I love it. In front row on dual screen, could we have auto pin active speaker for better usage of the screens?
Yeah, that is really a great question. So if you are talking about the people who are I'll talk about people who are in the room and people who are remote. For people who are in the room, definitely there are some options for as a preview, you can see the active speaker. So you can see actually who is speaking as somebody who is in the room. So you can actually see what the remote people will see. So if I'm sitting here and I'm talking, and I can see the preview window that, this is me, I was detected. So everybody can see me. Then there is a view of the remote people. For remote people, they get more than one option than active speaker. And then initially, they can just pin the entire room and the active speaker will be highlighted in a room. But you can think about in the future, as we are bringing more of the online experiences to rooms, you can think about things like pinning and spotlighting could in the future also work for people who are in the room. And that requires us to be able to track that person, know who that person is. So if you're seeing somebody in the conference room and you want to spotlight that person, we are building technology that you can do that in the future.
And I think those two panes, Michelle, in front row really give a lot of things that you guys can do in the future when people in the room are identified, when people in the room are in a conversation, maybe agenda items. That gives a lot of things for identifying where people are. And I know coming from the background that I do, which is room control, knowing where people are and who they are can be a huge thing to base a lot of decisions off of in the future as well. So meeting room technology, I think this gives us a lot of basis for the ability to do a lot of things in the future.
Yeah, we have a question from Nate, and I'm not sure if it's for you, Arash, or if we should ask this to maybe Greg or even Ilya. And we're gonna try to get Greg on, by the way, in
If
one of
he'll
these
answer, if he'll
episodes.
answer our text messages, all right. Tell him he never answers me anymore.
That's actually a funny inside joke there, but we'll leave that for another time. So Nate is asking, why are we limited to one or two screens to represent virtual attendees in the room? Can we build an AI to break out virtual users to multiple screens?
That's a great question for Greg. So the way kind of a Greg teams work and my team works, so Greg basically owned the overall MTR for Windows and shared spaces, kind of vision and direction. So my team is more like a horizontal team. So we kind of use AI to solve different problems across the portfolio. And this is a scenario that me and Greg talked a few times about, and this is good feedback for us to go and think about. So I appreciate that feedback.
And Nate, we promise you. Yeah, go ahead, Jimmy.
Arash, I'm going to tell you one thing. So when I was an MVP, I see that there's a lot of MVPs that are posting questions into it. When I was an MVP, one of the great things was during Airlift, I actually got the chance to sit down with you and go through some of the things that are out today. So if you guys see in the future the ability to actually sit down with Arash and give him some of the feedback as an MVP or even as a partner and things like that, I know, Arash, you take that very, very seriously and take it into a lot of the products that you guys are working on. So, we spoke before. We can't go into NDA about a lot of things that are there in the future, but you actually do take the feedback that you get from these influential people that we have surrounding Microsoft and work it into a lot of these places.
Yeah, I totally agree. So I think AI really opens a new front for all of us, right? So benefit for the customers is substantial, and I think we are just scratching the surface now. There are so many different ideas and so many ways we can make the meetings more effective, reduce the fatigue for the meetings. I think about personal cameras is another category that I didn't even talk about. Yeah. Shared spaces. So we definitely always very open to suggestions about, hey, how can we use technology as a tool to solve solve problems for our customers? And we're always open to hear that feedback. So feel free to email me directly, message me directly, and use any channel that on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn as well. We'll just put the link in there. I'd love to hear for any ideas that you guys may have.
Good stuff. Thanks so much, Arash, for doing this. We're running out of time. Jimmy and I, we do have an announcement because the next episode is coming on July 5th, and there's a lot of buzz around this new video from the Hive. And we actually have a few people from the Hive that are going to be joining the show on July 5th at 8 p.m. Central or European Standard Time, and then 2 p.m. Eastern Time. What you want to do is you want to go over to the new YouTube channel, youtube.com/Teams Rooms Tech Talk. Make sure you subscribe. I never do this stuff, but make sure you subscribe and get the notification when we start publishing this new session. But July 5th, meet the Hive on Teams Rooms Tech Talk.
Let's do it like the influencers. Go over, subscribe, hit that like button, pounding.
Oh man, thanks again, Arash, for being on the show, and thanks everybody for all the great questions. That's what I love the most about this episode is the interaction we have with all of you out there. So thanks a lot. Arash, enjoy the rest of your day. Jimmy, enjoy dinner. I'm going to bed.
It's late. It's 5:30.
Thanks, guys. Take care. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.